Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. Wisdom is one of those words that people try to define in a very broad way. Uh, Oftentimes there's these blanket definitions that are given to wisdom to try to make it fit in all different contexts within the Bible, such as wisdom is knowledge in action or something like that. And as with many words that you find in scriptures, it's not always the best to try to find just one definition that fits all when it comes to the Bible. Typically, when it comes to scripture, it's going to be the context that helps you understand exactly what a word means. And sometimes a word might mean one thing in one context, but mean something else in another context based on how the author's using that word. And wisdom is one of those words that is difficult to define in a very broad way that fits all situations and all contexts. And so one of the best things you can have in a particular book or a particular chapter or a particular verse is to have the author themselves actually give you the definition or let you know what they mean when they use a particular term. And fortunately, that's what we have with wisdom in the book of Proverbs. Now, even within Proverbs, there's different contexts within the book. There's various authors of the book of Proverbs. Although Solomon is attributed to a big portion of Proverbs, there's other people as well that have contributed to the book of Proverbs. And so there's different authors that might use it in different ways. There's still different, meanings that might, or nuances of wisdom that might be pulled on in some Proverbs versus others. But I think that Proverbs chapter 8 and verse 12 is probably the best definition of wisdom that defines really how wisdom is used in the book of Proverbs. And it can't really be seen as a definition proper, like a formal definition, but it does help us to see some of the components of wisdom and some of the things that go along with wisdom and mix together to produce wisdom as found in the book of Proverbs. This is what Proverbs chapter 8 and verse 12 says. I, wisdom, dwell with prudence, and I find knowledge and discretion. So I, wisdom, dwell with prudence, and I find knowledge and discretion. Now, when I was reading that verse, one of the things that popped into my mind was this idea of wisdom kind of having friends. Like wisdom dwells with prudence. In other words, they're kind of like roommates. And then also I find knowledge and discretion, my other two friends. And so you have this idea of wisdom hanging out with prudence, knowledge, and discretion. And I don't know that necessarily gets at the heart of the meaning of this verse, but it does kind of bring out the fact that these things are tied together. Wisdom, as used in the book of Proverbs, typically involves these three things: prudence, knowledge, and discretion. And when we can understand these three words, I think it helps us to understand wisdom in the various ways that it's used in Proverbs. Prudence is a word that's used in the Old Testament several times, and sometimes it can mean trickery. It can actually be used in a negative context where a person's using trickery. They're kind of trying to trick people and trying to scheme and things like that. But in a good sense, in the book of Proverbs, it's used as prudence. And prudence can be seen as being sagacious or being shrewd in the management of a person's affairs and day-to-day life. So it's basically being able to manage your affairs appropriately. Knowledge is really basically just what it says. It's knowledge. It's knowing things. And it's kind of knowing the truth about the reality of things in the book of Proverbs. Being able to understand some basic truths. And you'll find some very simple but profound truth claims throughout the book of Proverbs. Truths that we need to know in order to live a wise life. And those are scattered throughout the book. And then discretion is the ability to plan wisely. It's kind of looking ahead to the future and being able to plan. Sometimes this word is used for planning wickedness and planning evil towards the innocent or things like that. But here it's used in a positive way, and that is being able to plan wisely for the future. And so, prudence, knowledge, and discretion, these three things are really good friends with wisdom. And you might could even say they're components of wisdom that make up wisdom. And so when we think about wisdom in the context of Proverbs, we could see that it means being able to manage one's affairs according to the truth of the reality of things and being able to plan ahead for the future. Basically, living an orderly life, living a life of order. And when a person is managing their affairs appropriately, they've got all their ducks in a row, when they really work hard at getting a true knowledge of things as they truly are, when they're planning ahead and they have a plan for the future and things like that, they've got their life kind of in order. And so really, I guess if you wanted to really try to come up with a blanket definition for wisdom in the book of Proverbs, it could be order, having your life in order, living an orderly life. And that's very, very important and very much emphasized in the book of Proverbs. And we might say, well, why is it that we would want to live a life of wisdom? As spiritual people, as people who are concerned with spiritual things, we might be more concerned with moral attributes and having virtue and things like that. Why is it that wisdom in the practical things of life, in the everyday things of life, many of which are brought out in the book of Proverbs, such as taking care of your money, things like that, how to properly raise a child and things along those lines, why are they so important? Well, we have to understand that, our character reflects the God, reflects the God that we serve. Just as a child reflects on their parents in the way that they act, in the way that they interact with the world, so we reflect on God, the type of life that we are living. If we are living a life of foolishness, of chaos, of making bad decisions, and just not walking in wisdom, then that reflects on God, because we are children of God and we claim to be following God. And if we're not walking in wisdom, then it badly reflects on the God that we claim to be our Father. Our God is very wise. Our God is very orderly. You look at creation and everything has its proper order. It runs according to certain laws. Everything has its place and its purpose and its end purpose. And God has made the world in a very orderly way. And that's why a lot of times and even in the book of Proverbs, we see this whenever they talk about God being wise, a lot of times they draw on, that is, the ancients will draw on his creative order and things like that. And so living an orderly life is more than just helping us keep from having a miserable life and making mistakes and having to deal with the consequences of our bad mistakes and things like that. That's very, very important. And the book of Proverbs brings out a lot of those things. But it's also so that we can reflect the wisdom of God in our day-to-day living. When people see us living an orderly life, a structured life, a life of wisdom, that reflects well on God, the God that we serve, the God that we claim to love and to be devoted to. And so it's actually a testimony sometimes when we are able to act in a wise way in situations, when perhaps everyone else is acting foolishly, when everyone else might be causing chaos in their life and destruction in their life. We as believers, we as children of God, ought to be people who fight off the chaos, who don't live destructive lives, but live lives that are filled with prudence and knowledge and discretion. And when we do that, it gives a great testimony, not only to ourselves and how wise we are, but in reflection upon the God that we serve, the God of order, the God of wisdom, things along those lines. So wisdom is very, very important, even in the practical things, even in the day-to-day things, even in the little things. Because in each and every case, when we respond with wisdom, as we bring order into situations, we are giving a testimony to the God that we serve, a God who also is full of order, who is full of wisdom, who's full of prudence, knowledge, and discretion. So these are some things we can think about and reflect on as we do our reading today. With that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.